what we're doing here is, it's kind of a two-pronged way of paying homage to the Buick. One is we're following this amazing, beautiful, and it really is a very beautiful car. If you looked at just the chrome work, and imagine somebody molding it with their hands, not with a computer, and how it all goes together, and how the chrome and the paint and the wheels, that everything complements each other in such ways that cars today couldn't even hope to do that. It really is pretty remarkable, especially, you know, we're already well into this this drive, and the Buick is just humming along. I've been staying on it for hours and no problems at all. It's got a little leak here, a little leak there, but you know, that's kind of typical for really, really old cars. But in terms of its overall drivability, it's been maintaining the speed limit no problem, and it's been just hovering over the highway. Just gonna have a gander at the trunks here. This basically looks like the back of a pickup truck with a hood. And this is just, there's enough space for me to get in there if you're curious, but I'd much rather hang out in this. Yes, and that is factory right there. Vinyl, carpeting, all that stuff. Pretty cool. Massive. For those of you who are listening, and I'm putting the microphone, you hear that? That is the sound of an old car, because a lot of old vehicles, after a certain period of time, metal starts to separate, different types of metals grow and shrink over time, gaskets eventually harden, and you start getting a lot of wind noise. I'm willing to bet money that when this baby was brand new out of the factory, it made no noise, or very, very little. And if you look, we're cruising, well, according to the car, at, you know, 65 miles per hour, give or take. This car will easily do 100, but we don't really want to do that. Amongst the reasons, no seat belts. But this is all, that's real metal, folks. And that's the dash right there. And yes, that is padded. This is a padded material. So despite not having seatbelts, I'm completely safe if we hit something, because I'll hit this right before tumbling through that and hitting that and rolling there. If you look very carefully on both fenders, we have those bomb sights right there, and it's great for 50 caliber machine guns. And back in the day when this thing was built, believe me, guys were thinking along those lines. There were a lot of people who returned from World War II who were in their mid-20s when they came back, and by the time this car came out, they had young families, and they were looking for a car that would give them all the comfort and style of Cadillacs and Lincolns, but at a reasonable price. So I have some road munchies, camera gear, tripods in the back. We're following the Buick 1958 Buick Roadmaster. Highway 30. It's one of the older routes, and you know, that's kind of the point. It's one of the older routes that was around when this 1958 Buick was driving around. Now think about that for a minute. We're not talking about big highways. We're talking, in many cases, 2 lanes, one in each direction. Small cafes, little hotels, well, motels really. And they were all dotted along the road, and that created commerce in these tiny little towns. And what we're discovering on this little trip is a lot of those cafes, small gas stations, motels, well, they're closed. They're done. They're gone. In some cases, it's actually really depressing to see that they were open maybe as late as 10 years ago, and perhaps made a go of it because they were rustic and cool and nostalgic, and even that wasn't enough to save them. I've seen literally hundreds of gas stations, motels, and restaurants that are closed along the road. That's kind of the point of the history of this, is once that happened, once they stopped using this road and started using the massive highways, you know, I-70 and I-40, they just no longer had use for coming through these small towns. They no longer needed it. It's really actually a rather depressing prospect.